So the other day I was going back through the videos I did a few years ago on Rebel starfighters during the release of Star Wars Squadrons, and I realized I missed one. One that actually does play a big role in the events leading up to Rogue One, and that will certainly be seen in Andor Season 2, so I figured it was a good time to sort of get that into the roster. Today, let's discuss the U-Wing and the role it played in the Rebel Alliance. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So, we're all familiar with the U-Wing. It's one of the core fighters within the Rebels sort of fighter roster, but its history is a little bit interesting, both in-universe and out-of-universe. It was one of the last fighters added to the Rebel Alliance outside of the Star Wars universe, like in the real-life timeline here. And in the timeline, it's one of the first. So I figured today we could dive into the interesting history and how the Rebels got their hands on this fighter, as well as how they used it. And I should probably stop calling it a fighter, because it does a bunch of other things too. But let's just dive right in the way we do with most of these ship videos and talk about the numbers. The UT-60D Starfighter is a combination starfighter, transport, and support vehicle designed by Incom during the reign of the Empire. And, well, it didn't fall into service with any other organizations. It ended up serving the Rebel Alliance. It was capable of doing 90 kilometers in atmosphere, making it slower than a lot of fighters, but it was not really intended for dogfighting. It was propelled forward by 4 Incom 4J.7 Fusible thrusters, which were fairly common on lots of Incom vessels. And for hyperspace travel, it had 4 Incom GBK 585 hyperspace motivators. For its standard armament, it only had a pair of Tamanbak KX-7 laser cannons, which were primarily defensive in nature, but in its service to the Rebel Alliance, when they were using it as a dropship, they would often install small door weapons in either of the ship's side doors, of which it could carry 2 of a variety of heavy, sort of repeating blasters. The vessel could be piloted by a single individual, but often had 2 pilots, a pilot and a co-pilot, and could carry as many as 8 troops, making it a relatively small transport, but one that was still pretty fast for the role of a transport. So it was originally designed by the Incom Corporation, famous for the T-65 X-Wings, which were also used by the Rebel Alliance. And like the T-65 X-Wings, the U-Wing was not designed for the Rebel Alliance. It was designed as a civilian and potentially Imperial vessel. However, it didn't ever see the light of day. It was one of the last vessels manufactured by Incom before they were nationalized by the Galactic Empire. As such, there were only a handful of these ever made, and that shipment containing the handful of them, the only ones ever produced, happened to go missing under the watch of Bail Organa, where it fell into the hands of the Rebel Alliance, an event that actually did result in Bail Organa's investigation by Imperial authorities for possible ties to the Rebel Alliance. Once these vessels fell into the hands of the Rebel Alliance, they became a remarkably useful tool, transporting Rebel agents around the galaxy and playing roles in countless small engagements in the early years of the Rebel Alliance. At some point during this time, it's likely the Rebel Alliance started manufacturing their own U-Wings, as their numbers do seem to grow beyond that initial batch that was produced. We see them quite frequently by the later years of the Galactic Civil War. Furthermore, we know these didn't stay sort of concentrated in a single Rebel faction, but ended up basically all over the Rebel Alliance, even before the faction unified. We see at least one of these in service of Saw Gerrera's partisans, for example. But we do know that they, at least within the hands of the Alliance to Restore the Republic when it was formally founded, filled a variety of different roles, primarily serving as long-range light transports. For covert insertions, a few could be used for large-scale assaults, and they could be used for support vehicles to support other fighters, as we see commonly in Star Wars Squadrons. That made this vehicle incredibly versatile. It could be a troop transport, it could be a support vessel, it could, in extreme situations, be a fighter, although it was never designed for that. In most cases, when we see this, it's being used in its transport role, which is kind of where it really shines. Its design makes it perfect for carrying small strike teams to distant locations, even in other star systems, since it is hyperdrive capable. It could be used to insert small strike teams and assassination groups into areas that were under Imperial control and then get out before they could be discovered, allowing that strike team to take out whatever target they needed to take out before being withdrawn via either another U U-wing or any other method. As the Galactic Civil War rolled on and the sides became more and more evenly matched, the need to covertly insert strike teams into enemy territory became less and less prominent when most battles were more or less even-sided, and the U-wing shifted into a more support role and a low-altitude transport for regular troops kind of role, like what we see it do on Scarif or what we see it do in Star Wars Squadrons as a support vehicle. We do know that these were not used by the New Republic for very long after the end of the Galactic Civil War. We don't really see them in the New Republic fleet come the days of the First Order Resistance War, but we do see them in the fleet that shows up at the Battle of Exegol, so they weren't completely gone from the galaxy by that time. However, it's likely that a lot of these were just surplus vehicles that were in the hands of individuals who bought them after the New Republic began disarming. All in all, it's a very interesting footnote in INCOM's history. After all, it's completely overshadowed by the T-65 X-Wing, the fighter that destroyed the Death Star. If you'd like to learn about the T-65 X-Wing, the monolith that was manufactured by INCOM, I'll leave a link up here to a video I did on the history of that vessel and how it almost ended up an Imperial starfighter. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments whether you think the U-wing was good at any of the jobs it did. After all, it was kind of a jack of all trades, and that did hit it. I mean, when you think about it, like 8 troops to a single transport feels like a tiny load of soldiers. So was it actually good at anything it did, or was it just good enough for the Rebel Alliance? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.